right, my colleague Nadabo and I will take a look at the two papers we have and, of course, discuss one or two of the stories. Bayo Atebi, our regular reviewer, is unavailable this morning. So, Nadabo, you want to begin with the leadership or I kick off with the nation?
Let me get started with the leadership here.
All right.
On the leadership newspaper today, the front page, there are some few stories, and these at the, right under the masthead, we have conflicting court orders. That's the main story, I must say. Conflicting court orders 64 days after. Probe panels yet to sit over airing judges. Probe panels yet to sit over airing judges 64 days after. Details of that on page 4. Writers are accused judges yet to make appearances, and then the panels can't begin hearing if the judges' lawyers aren't fully briefed. And finally, it says senior lawyers ask CJN and NJC to expedite action. Details of this can all be gotten on page 4 under the caption 64 days after probe panels yet to sit over hearing judges. And coming down a little bit to the left, that's to the right of your right-hand side of your screen, we have these few stories. One is on page 6, Institute 6 leadership support on corporate governance drive on page 6. And then Cameroon separatists kill 11 in Taraba. Details of that on page 8. And then still coming down, we find FCT teachers begin 5-day warning strike on page 14. FCT teachers begin 5-day warning strike. Details on page 14. And on page 25, 4 die in another Lagos building collapse. 4 people die in another Lagos building collapse. Details on page 25 of the leadership newspaper. At the moving right was, that is on the left-hand side of the screen, we have some 2 stories. That a final story there on page 7, talking about U.S. removes Nigeria from religious violators list. U.S. removes Nigeria from religious violators list. And then really finally, on page 7, we have inflation may push 6 million Nigerians into poverty, says the World Bank, or rather warns the World Bank. Inflation may push 6 million Nigerians into poverty, World Bank warns. Details of that on page 7. Kinsley?
All right, thank you, Nadabo. Let's also take a look at the front page of the Nation newspaper. Now, starting from above the nameplate, says 1 killed, 68 abducted in Niger community. IG, that's the kicker. Female cops can live with civilian spouses in barracks. Female cops can live with civilian spouses in barracks. NNPC gets 104 billion naira loan from Afrexim Bank. Shekarau and Kano APC chair clash over Ganduje. And below the nameplate says banditry. Katsina engages 500 vigilante groups. Matawale and others for award. Now, this is the lead story, and it comes with a double-decker headline and 2 riders. Cameroonian separatists kill 11 in Taraba village. And community head among victims, and senator seeks Nigerian Army's help. Disquiet as petrol sells for 159 naira per litre at depots. Product raised by 11 naira per litre. NNPC, that's the second kicker, operators breach pact. And then the second lead story says hash and SARS, that's the kicker. Leaked report has errors, says panel member. Lagos seeks restraint. And Okuno, that's Alhaji Femi Okuno, senior citizen, that statesman calls for authentic report. No compensation for demolished illegal structures, says Minister. You have details of that on page 30. So, Nadabo, those are the headlines that we have this morning. And maybe we just quickly turn our attention to yet another incident of building collapse really in Lagos. This is a 2-story structure somewhere around the Badagry area, but the building came down. At least 4 persons have been confirmed dead. Otherwise, their bodies were retrieved from the rubble. All of this is happening in November. We remember what happened on the 1st of November when a 21-story structure under construction at Gerard Road in Ikoyi came down. The rubble, of course, has still been cleared from the site of that incident. And a number of revelations have been emerging. Professional engineers said that the Ikoyi structure was approved originally for 6 stories.
Yeah, and it kept going up.
From 6 to 15, 15 to 21.
21.
And on the basis of that, that's to say on the basis of, that's a simple extrapolation, it was inevitable that a foundation designed to take 6 stories cannot, by any stretch of the imagination, take either 15 or 21 stories.
It cannot really. It cannot.
Yes.
So there was some sort of impunity there.
That's right. And then attention has also been drawn to the apparent failure of regulation in Lagos. It is not sufficient for the development control authorities to sit down in their offices, give approvals, and they don't undertake site visitation. We know that, I mean, Lagos is not a particularly vast location in terms of land space, but construction is going on a fairly frequent basis, and therefore the officers ought to be on the field identifying or stopping work at locations where there are breaches of what has been approved in terms of the structural drawings and so on and so forth.
And of course, you remember right here we discussed this very issue where, our experts really suggested, supervision to be taken all around the places by everybody involved, stakeholders, especially government that approves this building so that things don't go wrong along the way. But unfortunately, here we are again facing another collapse still within Lagos, even without the, investigation or the outcome of the investigation really coming out. And indeed, some of those involved have not been brought to book. And talk more about that. You find that a lot needs to be done about the building issue in Nigeria, Kingsley.
There's no question about that. Then we come to the lead story for the Nation newspaper. It says Cameroonian separatists kill 11 in Taraba village. The Cameroonian separatists are from the southwestern part of Cameroon. They are known as Ambazonia. There's been a conflict going on now with the Cameroonian authorities and the Amazonian separatists. But this is a significant development if the separatists have now strayed into Nigerian territory, have sacked Nigerian village, killed the community head, according to the senator representing that senatorial district in the National Assembly. Was on the floor yesterday. And this is the lead story from the Nation newspaper. There's no question about it that indeed this will be an instance of the violation of Nigeria's territorial integrity. And the principle, sorry, now that we're going to say something.
Yeah, that's talking about the very attack really taking place in Takum specific. To be specific, that is in Takum local government area. As you rightly said and you rightly pointed out, and of course the member from that area was right yesterday on the floor of the House talking about that. And then it attacked, or rather the Manga village, that is to be specific, with the Ambazonian separatist soldiers, killing around 11 in just cold blood, I must say, because that's just a direct attack on Nigeria's sovereignty, if one must say so. And it seems as if drastic measures must be taken in order to halt that. If not, as time goes on, some more other places will be attacked.
Well, Nadabo, you said it, drastic measures must and should be taken urgently. There's no question. If you don't teach them a lesson, it's likely to repeat itself. I mean, it is not just calling on the Nigerian army, it's calling on the Nigerian military, which will of course include the Air Force and other security agencies, to teach these separatists who are strayed into Nigerian territory to commit this kind of havoc. And incidentally, Nadabo, Nigerian communities along the border have been hosting a number of refugees from the separatist region of Cameroon on account of the conflict that they are having. But now they seem to be emboldened to be attacking Nigerian territory. And let us remember what happened in the 1980s when the current head of state, President Muhammadu Buhari, was then the GOC commanding the 3rd Division in Jos. There were Chadian rebels who strayed into the northeast of Nigeria. And General Buhari, Major General Buhari, as he then was, as GOC of the 3rd Division, was the one that led the Nigerian forces to repel those rebels. And of course, the principle of hot pursuit would apply. In other words, you cannot say that because the rebels have crossed into the territory of another country, you cannot chase them. They have already committed an offense in your territory. So they chased them into Chad, and that was the end of that kind of reckless behavior by the rebels. I think, as you said, this is the kind of measure that these separatists would require to tell them that Nigeria is a
really,
no-go territory.
I mean, Nigerians generally have been treating its neighbors with kid gloves all over. When you look at concerns in other places, other countries, Ghana, South Africa, and all over the places where Nigerians have been attacked. And talk less of now coming into the territory of Nigeria and having such, deaths, 11 of people being killed. And I think the Nigerian government should do something about this and work towards halting it for sure. We have a lot on our hands, really.
Absolutely.
Within, inside, there are so many things we have to, manage and tackle. But for sure, here comes another one from outside. So I think the government, especially the military, as you said, must really take real measures in order to halt this and halt it once and for all.
There's a little story from the leadership that you read, which has to do with...
that has to do with the judges,
over 2 months.
Panels.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you recall, there was an uproar at some point, and we even had a conversation around it on Good Morning Nigeria relating to the issuance of ex parte orders and also conflicting orders by courts of coordinate jurisdiction. At that time, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, who is also the chair of the NJC, indicated that the NJC was going to take appropriate measures. Of course, the number of judges were identified, and the pro-panels were also supposed to investigate them. That same issue has come up during the annual judges conference this year regarding what the proper conduct of the bench should be with regard to ex parte orders. Now, if the panels haven't started sitting, we have to respectfully ask their lordships why those panels haven't sat. And if there are any delays, those delays, of course, should be obviated as quickly as possible, and then let them have a fair hearing.
Well, that's great, really, and of course, that will go a long way in trying to, enhance the judicial system in the country. And we'll have to just call it quits here, and then we move on to some other segment.
Yes, we'll move on to some other segment. There's a story that's been trending for a while. I hope we have the opportunity of discussing it in greater detail. I'm sure it has to do with Nigerian passports. Millions of passports are said to have been produced. An office in Lagos is now said to be working on Saturdays and Sundays to meet the shortfall. There are thousands of Nigerians who are in the diaspora. They apply to get the Nigerian passport. They hardly ever get those passports on time. Now, if you look at the major capitals, London, New York, sometimes in Atlanta, that's where we have a consulate, or Washington, D.C., where we have the Nigerian embassy, but perhaps Pretoria in South Africa. Passports do, of course, get produced, and then the applicants get to receive them. But elsewhere, particularly around the Caribbean, where you have a number of small islands and persons have to travel from, say, Belize to Kingston, Jamaica, passports are applied for, booklets are applied for 6 months, 1 year, and nobody gets them.
So that's a big one. At least authorities concerned are up there watching and listening. At least they should take measures against that and really work it out for Nigerians to feel it and have it easy going wherever they are and have this thing simple. Oh, while you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, we will now take a break. We'll be back with our discussion segment after this.